What's good, Team Strike? Strike here with another video, and I wanted to talk to you guys about where I thought Striker would fit in the Dragon Ball timeline. And no, you guys, I'm not talking about Ultimate Striker. Ultimate Striker is a great character, you guys, that I created in my own little world. But in this video, I'm not talking about him. I'm actually going to be talking about Future Striker, you guys. Future Striker was my first initial striker that I created for this little Dragon Ball story that I have for him. Him traveling through time actually created ripples in time that actually made him the character that he is. It's kind of funny when I think about it sometimes, because you know the first striker was Earthling and he wasn't a Saiyan, and that was in Xenoverse 1. But if I'm going from the timeline that I created in Xenoverse 2 for Striker, he's a Saiyan. He comes from the same timeline as Trunks, and for Striker to fit in this timeline with Trunks, you guys, I would say there's gonna have to be a lot of changes to that timeline. Like 16 could have been created in Striker and Trunks' timeline, and Gohan could have died earlier on with Vegeta, Tien, Yamcha, and the others. And I can say, you know, Trunks may have died too. You know, defending Striker, he could have left Striker in the rain that one day, and you know, with Striker being loyal to Trunks, you know, he went back in time with the help of, you know, elderly Bulma, of course, and he could have been the one to bring back, you know, the medicine for Goku to survive, and he could have been the one to finish off Frieza. I know a lot of you guys are probably like, what? How can you even put Striker, you know, in the same category as Trunks? But you gotta understand, for Striker to fit, there's gonna have to be major changes to the Dragon Ball timeline, and you know, the most that I can say comes out of this, you guys, is that there's a new hero added to the story, but things like Vegeta and Trunks' relationship aren't going to be spoken of, or things like that aren't going to be understood. And you know, Vegeta won't really too much change as a character until later on, like in the Buu saga, like when he changed for the better, and you know, was like, hey, if I sacrifice myself, I can protect the others. That change won't happen, you know, where deep down Vegeta won't feel for his son like he did when Cell killed him. For Striker to fit in, Striker would have to be directly at the beginning of the Android saga all the way through to the end of the Cell saga for this Future Striker to actually fit in perfectly. Unfortunately, Trunks would have to die when he did, and it would have to be Trunks wouldn't have to be as young as he was when he died to Cell. Trunks would have to be in his his late 20s, early 30s, and Striker would have to be a teenager for it to work out correctly. And like I said, Bulma would have to be of old age, because let's just say Trunks and Gohan did their training, they grew up together, you know, they were fighting androids on and off, you know, and eventually Gohan did die with everyone else. Trunks lived on and didn't, you know, Bulma didn't finish the time machine at the time that she did. So let's just say by the time that the time that came around for Bulma to complete the time machine, Trunks had already been killed by the androids, and he would have left Striker knocked out in the rain like Gohan did Trunks. So with Striker's loyalty, the thing about Future Striker is he's completely different from Ultimate Striker. I think I broke this down to you guys before. Ultimate Striker is really arrogant. Ultimate Striker grew up in a era of time, a time of peace. Like he doesn't really know, you know, what dangers really, you know, lie before him. But Future Striker is very, very humble and understanding and caring, and you know, all he understood was, you know, survival and, you know, to protect people. So he's very humbled as a person. So those are the big changes, you know, not big changes, but those are two big differences between those two. But knowing, you know, with his bond that he had to Trunks, he would have been the one to come back and like, he would have been the one to come back and be like, hey, Bulma, you know, I was Trunks' apprentice, I was his student, send me back. And when Striker got back, he would have been the one to deal with Frieza instead of Trunks. And since Striker was, you know, trained by Trunks, you know, he probably would have finished it in style just like Trunks did. Striker would have did the exact same thing as, let's just say, you know, entertaining the others until Goku got there, but Striker would probably be more friendly than Trunks was, because it's not gonna alter the timeline any, because none of those people really know of Striker. And he's not a distant relative to any of them, any of the Z Warriors or anything like that. So if we take Trunks out of perspective and put Striker there, you know, there could be more understanding before that 3-year gap happened between the training and the before androids 19 and 20 came. I think it was 19 and 20, correct? Dr. Gero and 19. But the same way Striker created that timeline, the other timeline, not Striker, but the same way Trunks created that second timeline where he was killed by Cell, it could be the exact same way for Striker. Striker could be killed by Cell and Cell could have come back. So I feel like that completely fits in terms of how that at the beginning of the Android saga, how that would have fit. I feel like that would have fit perfectly. Moving on to, you know, the second time Trunks has come back to the past and he sees Android 19 and 20, Striker would arrive and, you know, would feel the exact same way. These aren't the androids that I've been pointing out to you guys. Now with, you know, slight changes in the timeline, you guys, Android 16 is Dr. Gero's son's android, because Goku killed him back when he was a part of the Red Ribbon Army. I don't think Goku intentionally did it, but he did. And but that was when Goku was a kid. And with Dr. Gero having that resentment towards him, yes, he did create Android 16. And in Striker and Trunks' timeline, 16 was created, so there was a third android. So it was 3 against 1 the night Trunks was killed. So I feel like Striker, once he got to that timeline, he would be completely oblivious to what's completely going on, you know, because he doesn't recognize Android 19 and 20 just like Trunks didn't. But when it came down to him seeing, oh, there, Trunks saw the third capsule, he saw Android 17 and 18 opening the capsule like there's a third android. But Striker would have knew exactly who the third android was. And just as Trunks did, he overreacted just a little and, you know, blew up Dr. Gero's lab. But Striker would have handled it the exact same way. It fits perfectly. Striker would have reacted the exact same way. Although Striker wouldn't have those bonds like Trunks did to some of the Z Warriors, considering, you know, their family ties and their friendships that were had, Striker wouldn't be as close to everyone, but he would still feel that need to protect because of what he's been through and the will that Trunks bestowed in him being his student later on. And moving on from that point, Vegeta probably would have, I'm not going to say he would have died, but he would have probably took that same beating that he took when he approached Android 18 on the bridge. He probably would have took that same beating. And I honestly can't say Striker would have jumped in for Vegeta. Knowing Vegeta's history and who he was as a person, you know, it was already known to Striker that Vegeta was an arrogant prince who, you know, was full of himself and really more concerned about himself, especially after getting there and arriving just after he, you know, become a Super Saiyan, and, you know, he's more arrogant than ever. And Striker, you know, he's not gonna take, you know, kindly to it. He's not really gonna like it, but he knows Vegeta's not on the bad side, so he's just gonna like let it go. But he isn't gonna be the one to jump in when Vegeta gets his arm broken by 18. It will probably be someone else, like maybe Gohan or Piccolo or something like that. But I'm gonna just say that no one does jump in for Vegeta, and he's beaten down. And eventually, because the only reason everyone else jumped in is because Trunks jumped in, and 17 said if, you know, they jumped in, then he was gonna jump in. So if nobody jumps in at all, Vegeta's, you know, just gonna take a beat down, and, you know, and they'll leave us. Like, they'll leave Striker and everyone else, and the most they'll have to do is give Vegeta a sensu bean. And as for Goku's virus, as for Yamcha taking Goku back home to take care of his virus, Gohan can do exactly what he did. He can take, I think he took Yajirobe and Bulma back. Yeah, I think he took Yajirobe and Bulma back. Everything can happen exactly the way it did before. But Striker will be planning in that timeline, so he's gonna go looking for, let's just say, what happened after that point, you guys? I'd say after that point, I think Kami and Piccolo actually went and refused, and they felt the sudden disturbance. Yeah, I think that's when they felt the disturbance in the world, and they actually realized, you know, there was another android, or there was something else out there, and that's when he met Imperfect Cell, the first form Cell, Piccolo, and just as Trunks did, you know, he felt like he knew. Striker's gonna feel like he knows Cell, you know, because Cell killed the second timeline Striker that was created for the first time. That ripple in time that Striker created coming back the first time, giving Goku the antidote. And as much as I love Trunks, you guys, Trunks wouldn't be alive in this timeline. And well, in the future timeline, he'd still be a baby in the present, but in the future, Trunks is gone. And Trunks is one of my favorite characters. But that deja vu that Striker's gonna have, he's just gonna be like, wow, it feels like I've seen him before. He's gonna solar flare and leave just like he did before. And I can honestly say Piccolo wouldn't even go in a time chamber by himself. Vegeta would end up going in the time chamber by himself to train. Because at this point, no, I skipped an entire part. I skipped the entire 17 and Cell thing. Well, actually everything what happened according to exactly how it was before, except I think I would place Piccolo and Striker in first. I would send Piccolo and Striker in the chamber first, since Goku and Gohan were gonna go in together, and Vegeta can go in by himself since he was kind of already a person that likes to be in solitude. So yeah, I would say instead of Piccolo having to clone himself inside the chamber and fight his after image, I think Striker and Piccolo would be great training partners together. I mean, yeah, that would be perfect. And Tien and Yamcha really didn't want anything to do with much anyways. In the same way, you know, 17 was absorbed and Tien he was out there using the Kikoho, the Neo Tri-Beam on Cell. Everything would happen exactly the same way. And by the time Striker came out with Piccolo, it would be instead of Piccolo and instead of Vegeta and Trunks out there, it'd be Piccolo and Striker would be fighting Cell, doing the most he can to kill Cell. And by let's just say time went by. They're fighting, and Striker just isn't strong enough. I can't put Striker on the same skill level as Vegeta because, you know, who and what Vegeta is. So I could say that by time Striker and, you know, semi-perfect Cell were, you know, mid-fight, I could say Vegeta arrived, and I could say Vegeta got there and knocked Striker and Piccolo down, you know, and allowed Cell to become perfect in the same way it happened before. You know, Vegeta's pride got the best of him and he got his ass handed to him by perfect Cell. You know, that's when Striker goes toe-to-toe with perfect Cell. You know, Striker tries to buff himself up just like Trunks did in his super form, Super Striker form. You know, the big hulking form that actually originated Broly after a while. And let's just say Cell did the exact same thing and gave Striker a pity role and was like, yeah, I just felt pity for you. That's the only reason you've been keeping up with me. And he decided not to take Striker's life and declared the tournament just like he did before. Striker would want to head back into the hyperbolic time chamber, unlike Trunks and Vegeta. Vegeta did go back in the hyperbolic time chamber for one of those 7 days. Piccolo did as well. Goku and Gohan stayed out. Striker's gonna go in for his extra year and come back out, and he's gonna have to maintain that Super Saiyan state, just like Gohan and Goku did. And things will carry out exactly the way they did from that point on, you guys. But Striker would be fitting in Trunks' role. Unfortunately, that means Striker would have to die, but be resurrected with the Dragon Balls. But at least he'll be able to come back and Gohan beat him, kill Cell. So, you guys, thanks. I love you guys. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this video.